Okay, so I'm going to just check, make sure everyone can hear me okay. I don't know if anyone heard what I just said then, but Happy New Year. Welcome to 2025, everyone, and welcome to my webinar, which is all about driving profitable sales in 2025. So I just want to make sure that people who are on the webinar can actually hear what I'm saying, and if you could let me know, that'd be fantastic. Put a message in the chat box. Yep. Can you hear me? Perfect. Awesome. So, yeah, welcome to my webinar. I'm now going to get right into it and get started. And a good way to start 2025 in relation to driving profitable sales. Sales is the blood of every business. No sales, then we really don't have a business. And for some people who are on this webinar, we can see that, this year is a year where I think a lot of businesses struggled a bit last year, but this is the year, I think, where we can all do our very, very best to grow our businesses. So today's session, what we're going to talk about is the power of having a sales strategy. So what is the strategy to your business? And this is things that I like to go into companies and build, understanding sales leadership, and then just the importance of building a sales culture, in particular where everyone is on the same page. And I'm more than happy to take some questions throughout today's webinar, and I'll do my very, very best to answer them at towards the end. But I think, this webinar is all about, as we said before, driving sales. For those who don't know me, my name is Colin Wilson. I'm the owner of Key Business Advisors. It's 22 years of experience. I started off as a sales cadet, when I was 17 years of age. So I was in the office technology industry for 22 years, and then we went and developed this great business at Key Business Advice. So I'm very passionate about what we do. What I do know is you need to have strategy, you need to have great culture, and you need to make sure you've got role clarification when it comes to your sales team. I think that's really, really important. We're very passionate about our business. Our mission is to take business from good to great, and our purpose is to take our customers on a journey through all aspects of employee engagement and performance. So we're talking about sales. If we've got really high engagement with professional salespeople or people who that are in your business that talk to customers, because in my opinion, anyone talks to a customer should be in sales, because that's just part of it. And without customers, we don't have a business. There are 4 pillars to our business, as you can see, and these are the services that we do, which I'll go into later in the webinar. So let me get started with our very first topic, which is around having a sales strategy. So I just want to build a bit of a pie of how that actually works, and just some of the dynamics you've got to have within a business. So if you have a look, you'll see here that you must have a team that is driven to sell. So they need to understand this is what we need to do. And I go to many companies and they go, Colin, I'm not a salesperson. So I say, that's okay. Just become a really good educator, because if you know your products and services and you educate the customer, then there's a 9 times out of 10 they're going to buy from you if it's the right advice that you're actually giving. And I think that's probably the thing customers want of today. They don't want to be sold to, they just want to be educated. So that's just a skill set where we go in, we engage with the customer, we ask lots of questions, and then we identify some sort of solution for them and make some recommendations. And the rest of it really just takes care of itself. The passionate people who are driven to sell will always achieve budgets and targets that we need to set. The whole company needs to be customer service driven. So as professional salespeople, we see that salespeople go in, they might make promises, they might overpromise, but we don't want that to happen. But there's nothing worse if your rest of the company is not behind the sales team, and we're not customer driven. So if the care factor is not really, really high to be customer focused, then that could also deflate and do some damage to your brand. So if we've made promises and commitments that we're going to deliver on this particular date or a service, or get back to them, and we don't get back to them, then that's where the customer starts to get a bit curious and go, have I made the right decision now? I think sales staff need to believe in your products and services. So a saying that I always say is, a salesperson will not sell or recommend a product they don't know or understand. So therefore, just the value of doing that training, in-house training on learning our products and services. So when the advisor, the sales consultant, is talking to the customer, they have this really high confidence in what they can offer. Your products and services also must add value to your customers' needs. So, the days of flogging your product, if I use that terminology, they're long gone. So again, we want to see the outcomes, because in today's world, passion, motivation, empowerment, all the above, we want to do meaningful work. So if we've recommended a product or a service to customers and they can see the value and the output that's going to happen, then I think, well, that's going to be really, really high on delivery. So I'm very passionate about, the products must add value to the clients. You definitely got to make sure that your staff believe in the products, because if staff don't believe in the products, you'll never sell them. And a big one for me is you must have great presentation material. So all this material that, brochures, all the stuff that you present with. Now, if I'm selling a tangible product, for an example, like a glass, people can physically see it. But if I'm not selling a tangible product, I'm selling a service, then how do you create that big picture for your customer, your potential customer? And the big one is marketing. So, in my experience, when I've always gone and worked for a company back in the day of the technology industry, sales and marketing never really got along, never really understood what marketing did from a sales point of view, and marketing would always blame the sales guys for not actually converting. But I think what's important in today's world is your marketing strategy is so important. And I'm a massive believer in it. And it's all about now showcasing your products and services and your capability. In our business, last year, or probably the last 18 months, but in particular last year, we really focused hard on not selling our products and services or recommending them. We just sold our capability and what we've been doing. And I felt that has been very a good return on investment, or a good return on sales leads that are opportunities that have come into our business. And the big one is the dedicated people who are aligned with your goals and objectives. So, if I'm talking about salespeople here, and I'm also talking about the company team, so I want to bring that in, because as a small business, we're all doing it together, and there's a lot of small businesses that are on this webinar. Everyone's got to be committed to work together as a team to ensure that we actually achieve those goals, those company goals and objectives. And I'm massive in creating that culture, which I'll go through a bit later. So I hope my intro has got your interest, and I hope you're keen to stick with me, because I've got a fair bit to offer, and it's a free webinar. So I think it's a great way of showcasing what I do, and if an opportunity comes through later down the track, then I'll be very grateful for that. But when we talk about sales strategy, I mean, the big one is sales budget. So you'd be surprised when we go into, I go into a company and I ask, what is your sales budget? And, do you have them tracked as per KPIs? So, and a lot of small businesses, they have a budget, but, the KPIs of the pillars of their business, if I can say that, the services. So we have KPIs on, business strategy, growth, people and culture, HR services, and our training services, and they're all linked with KPIs. So we track them on a weekly basis, a daily, weekly basis with the team. We review that every month and every quarter. So again, I think it's just really, really important that you've actually got that in place. So rather than let's go out, let's see what, let's throw some mud at the wall and go out and sell and see how we go. I think what's really, really important for our team is to know what is the target we're aiming for, what do those KPIs look like, and we've got to make sure that we do everything we possibly can to actually achieve those targets. Our products and services, we need to have pricing structure, and again, brainstorming session around packages, bundles, and offers that we can do to create that energy, I think is really, really important. Every company needs to have some sort of CRM system. So CRM system, client records management system, or if I'm in retail and there's retailers that are in this webinar, then you might have a point of sale system. But it is about how we go out and identify a client and get their details into a system so we can then go and follow up. So this webinar will be a lot about B2B or B2C, business consumer, business to business. But again, having some sort of CRM system, I think, is really, really important, because we can market to that. So and we can always follow up. And we've got all that information in one area. So I go into companies and they've got spreadsheets, post-it notes. They do have a system, but the team are not 100% committed to updating the system. You can't have that. You've got to have it all in one system. So we're all working from the same system to create the same outcome, which is achieve our targets, which is linked to our goals and objectives. Then we talk about processes. So do we have really good quote templates, our proposals? Are we good at pipeline reporting? And all of that, again, can go into a system of some sort that can spit out what you need at the actual other end. And sales and marketing is, for me, is linked to a client strategy. So what is the type of clients we are trying to go after? And I had a fantastic session, or 2 sessions last week with some clients of ours, long-term clients, where we just did a 3-hour brainstorming session around strategy. What do we need to do? And one of the things that come out of it was, we want to focus this year on some larger clients. So we still look after our small, medium-sized clients, but what would our strategy look like if we're going after some larger clients? So that was a really good outcome, and the guys have all been committed to, create some energy around that and some action around that, which is what you actually want to achieve. And the big one is part of your strategy is having those team meetings and training sessions. So, if we're having a team meeting, and small business, it's the whole team. If I've got a sales force, then it's a sales meeting, but we're having a team meeting and we're always tracking to what we need to achieve. And, we all want to succeed. We all want to exceed our targets. But again, what's important is making sure that we're aiming to something and we're focusing on the gaps, not actually if we're missing the targets. And I'll go into that a little bit later. And training sessions. So I made the comment before that, people won't recommend a product or a service unless they know it or understand it. So just that value of actually, running sessions with your team, product training, services training, case studies, all of that, I think is really, really important to actually get the guys thinking. And again, emotional intelligence today is, hey, we have a product. How do you think we can sell it? How do you think we can recommend it? What are some other things that we can do to try and make it easier for the client to make a decision, or for you to educate the client? That was the session I did last week. There was 2 sessions I did, and some of the ideas that come out of that were just absolutely fantastic. So with this particular business, if I can say, when it rains or it's super, super hot, a lot of people come into their retail part of the business. So, on a hot day where it's 38 degrees, like I think it's going to be really hot here in Melbourne today, how do we do like a group texting message to say, hey, we've got air conditioning, come and see us, and try and, put that thought process into their client's mind to try and get some lead generation happening in the business. That's just a really good example of what come out of last week. And I think the big one for me is what's really important is, how many of your existing clients use all of your current products and service offerings, right? So this is a really interesting. So when I go into a company and we talk about their clients, one of the things I like to do is say, well, okay, of the percentage of your clients, how many of them, buy 4 or more products or services from you on a regular basis? Because if I'm only buying one product, I've got an 80% chance of losing them. If I'm selling them one product, or a service, if it's 2 or more, it might be 50. If it's 3, it then starts to reduce to 35%. And if it's been proven that, if you offer 4 or more services to your clients, then, the chances of them leaving is like 8 to 10%. So, for an example, if I'll just use an example, we all bank, right? And we have Geelong Bank on this webinar. So hello, Vivian. I think, if you've got, everyone's got their home loans, their car loans, business loans, credit cards, all the above, and they're what's the word? They're attached to your brand, then, the outcome of that is that, if they're happy, they should stay, not leave. So again, that's a bit of a brainstorming session that I think is really, really good, that you can take back to your team, and you can, produce all those reports. If you've got the KPIs in your accountancy system like Xero or a system where you can produce the reports and show your team, hey guys, look, these clients, could we recommend or go and have a chat to them about some of our other products and services? There's nothing worse than the business owner meets somebody who says, hey, I use your services. And I also do I just recently went and bought some other services from another client to complement your services, and then you find out you actually offer that. So I think it's really important that client education, I think, is really important, and that comes back to your marketing, and it comes back to the conversations your staff have with your clients. So I think that's really, really important. So achieving sales targets, we all want to achieve targets, but again, it's around this activity. And this hasn't changed in 100 years. It is about measuring the activity. It's about the number of sales leads you're getting, number of leads you're getting, or opportunities, the number of cold calls or prospecting activity that you need to do to get it going. So companies, have professional salespeople, get on the phones, make your 20 calls per day, send your 20 emails per day, start generating, those appointments. So, when I go into a company and I'm assessing it, one of the big things for me is, what are the number of appointments, how many quotes you're putting out, what do the follow-ups look like, what's your closing ratio like? So do you have a 50% closing ratio or is it 20%? So how do we actually improve from 20% to 30%? And then we look at those missed opportunities and find out why. So typically in sales, you can't sell to somebody unless it's fully qualified. So you need to make sure that you've got all the decision makers there, or stakeholders. And the way I talk about a stakeholder is they tell the decision maker that we're doing this, you need to do this. And that's really, really important. So there's no point doing a proposal or a quote with somebody if they're not the right person to actually do it. So when we're measuring activity, the big thing is, who are we talking to? Are they qualified? And, what is the buying time or the buying cycle, do you think? When will the customer make a decision? So I think all these things we can measure and we can bring them into a really good meeting and have a conversation about it. And there's nothing more, from my point of view, where I come from as a salesperson, you actually would walk into a sales meeting knowing all of this. And you would have to talk about this in front of your peers. So again, this is that sales culture that I'm really big on. You've got to create this within your business, especially if what's the word? We're chasing new business and existing business. And again, that percentage, getting that percentage right. And I can quote you some stats. If we're focusing on 70% new business, 30% existing business, you'll end up with 50-50 at the end of the month. If I'm cold calling, prospecting over the phone or door knocking, it's going to be 1 in 20 hit rate. If we put some marketing behind that, it might end up being maybe 5 in 20. So again, it's about how you get that generation going and make it work. But I will say, when I go into a company, one of the things that I do ask is, how many referrals do you get and what does that look like in your sales report? So in our business, what I'll say is, a good 83% of our clients who come to us are referred to us. So I think it's important that, that is a conversation you've got to start having with your team. If you're doing a great job and, if you think about that first slide that I had with the circle, that everyone is on the same page, then referrals, I always believe that you're 50% already there when someone refers them to them. You would have to do something pretty wrong if you're not aligned for not to win that business, especially if they're in the market. So I think it's important to create that. And again, good brainstorming session is, if we do a campaign on referrals or someone gives us a referral, what do you give back to the client for who's referred you? Is it a voucher? Is it a thank you? Again, I think it's important that you do that. And again, creating those client opportunities. So, you can't create client opportunities without a list. So you've got to create some sort of client list to work with. And again, I'm pushing that CRM. Happy to have a chat to anybody after this webinar if they want to know about CRM, if it's not working for them. But again, it's just that discipline of putting that information in. So a client records management system is only as good as the information you put into it. And again, that's a discipline that needs to happen with your salespeople, and I think with the whole team, especially if you're a small business, because everyone's in sales in a really small business. So I think it's important, and that prospecting. So that follow up to our existing customers or past customers is a great way of generating some opportunity for you. So in our business, Sarah, who's in our business, we've gone through all the proposals we didn't win last year. And it's not a case where, they've sat on it's not a case where we've lost them, some we have, but we've put a blanket email where she's emailing them one at a time to say, hey, happy 2025. What are your goals for 2025? Is this something we can help with? We did give you a proposal last year. Are you keen to have a conversation? And just to see if we get some opportunities. And I look at it and go, well, okay, of the 30 odd emails that she's about to send, if we pick up 5 or 6 of them, I think that's really good work. So again, you can't win them all. That's the fact of sales, but you've always got to be trying to generate those leads and those opportunities. And I think market to your whole database and get them to do something to create some sort of action. So, and I've got a question here. Can I please, Simon, want a copy of the presentation? 100%. There's actually a recording of this presentation. It'll be up on our website by within 48 hours, and everyone who's registered for the website gets a copy of the webinar. So no dramas of that. So Mark, and I take that as a compliment, Simon, that I'm on the right track. So which is great. So you want to market to your database and get them to create something, some sort of call to action. So they call you or your company, they email you or your company, they download something off your website, or they register an interest in a webinar or an event. And this is part of our process of what we're doing right now. We do free webinars every second month. The reason why we do that is I see that as an opportunity to engage with our existing customers and also an opportunity for some new opportunities as well, because always something comes out of our webinars. I thought it'd be interesting to put it out there because we've got to practice what we preach. So I'm giving you the recommendation of the webinar, but some of the strategy and processes that we do as a business is, from a marketing point of view. So yes, we do the SEO, Google AdWords, and that's part of the process. And Emma, who's our rock in our business, she's right behind and manages all that. We have a great website, people go to our website, it's busy when you first go to it, but we really are big on landing pages. So when we market, someone ends up on a landing page, and if someone Googles, for an example, sales training, B2B sales training, that landing page of B2B sales training comes up. So they're not going to back to the face of the front page of the website and navigating around. They get what they actually Google and search for, which I think is a really good strategy. We write blogs all the time. I write blogs. I finished my blog for January today. That will go out. We're very big on socials. We put out on socials our capability. We promote our webinars. We promote public classes, all the above, and all of that just helps, good ingredients for lead generation. So I'll say marketing, it's all about branding. It's all creating awareness. Yes, we want call to action, and that's something you always keep working on and try to make it work. And one of the things we learned this through COVID is we have downloads. So on our website, you can download stuff off our website, 12 steps to having running a good sales team. That's on our website, or 12 steps to, having great culture. And those little triggers, it's free information, but for us, because we sell services, we get 6 or 7 leads a week that people download, and some of them are competitors, some of them are genuine. And again, we then go out. So I think, last week, 4 appointments were made for my team to go out, the consultants to go out and have a conversation with some clients around our HR services. So that's a really good thing. And when we boost a webinar like this, or we put a newsletter out, our downloads increase. So that's our form of how we get leads into our business that are coming to us rather than shotgun approach over the phone. I'm massive on following up our clients. So I think that's a big one. And that's part of the team of what we do as a team, and have those, have those conversations and get on the phones and start ringing our clients. Training workshops is a big thing for us. So we run public classes. We get people who want to come to our training. And again, that just branches out. So it's a low cost, get somebody to have a bit of a taste of what we do, and then the rest goes on from there. We love networking events, so any type of opportunity. We're part of some associations that we do work with. Any networking event that we can get to is important, because all of that helps generate new clientele for our business. And then asking for referrals, which we talked about before, I think it's a big one. Referrals are the best form of lead, and anyone will tell you that. I'm not telling you how to suck eggs, but it is. But are your team asking for referrals? Do they ask for things like Google reviews? Because if a client gives you a good Google review, then it's very easy to get referrals from them. So I think that is all part of the mix of what we do. I believe we do it very, very well. And, every time we go into a networking event, there's some form of campaign behind it. There's some sort of giveaway that we're trying to do. And all of that is about our brand and about how we can generate better business for opportunities for our clientele. One thing I'm very, very proud about, we're 17 years in business. and we still look after our top 20 clients who are still in business. So some of those have retired. But we still look after the very first client that we've got on board, which signed up with us on the 7th of March back in 2008, right? So again, I think it's important that we sit back and look at, well, okay, what have we done well, and then how do we keep doing that even more so? This is a sales terminology, something that it's drilled into all the training that I do and our team. ABC, always be closing, right? Always be closing an outcome. So time management is a big thing for salespeople, but I just, you just got to get into a habit. You got to teach your team to get into a habit. If I'm going to see somebody for a first appointment, before I leave, I want to lock in another time to come back with a proposal. Now, if it's a small business, you might want to email the proposal, but if it's something large or a good opportunity, it's your choice on how you run your business. But you want to actually lock in that time before you leave their offices or leave their premises, or even if they've come in to see you. How about, I do this preparation, because there's always preparation doing some sort of quote or proposal. Why don't you come back in and see me and we'll go through it together so you fully understand it. So again, it's all about closing an outcome. And if I go and do training with a client, and our HR services with our clients, before they leave, they've already got the next date locked in to come back. So that's far easier than say, I'll get back to you and then come back and playing that phone tag all the time. So it's so important that we've got this engine room going with the team. Okay, so we talk about team meetings and training sessions. So again, they need to be structured and they need to be what's the word? They need to have some form of an agenda. You need to have that clear and open communication. And what are our objectives? What are we here to try and achieve? And I think it's not about the actual manager or the owner doing. They're just a good facilitator. They're facilitating the meeting, and you have expectations for people to discuss. So when we run a team meeting here at our business, I do 20% of the talking, but the rest of it's done with, and that's just asking questions and just getting everyone on the same page. And we call them like a rev up meeting. So we have what we call a HRB meeting first thing on a Monday, which is human resources and business together. And that process is about who are we taking from good to great last week? What opportunities have we got on the go for this week? Where we're going, and just have that big education session with the team. And the whole idea is it's linked to our marketing strategy. It's linked to the leads that we come in. It's linked to our financial targets we're trying to achieve. So everyone is on the same page. And I can't explain. It's a well-oiled machine the way that we do it, and that's what I go in and coach. I think what's really also good is, you discuss the targets with the team. This is where we are overall, and in particular with salespeople who have targets, KPIs of their own individual targets. You should also have a conversation about, well, how they're tracking to the week, how they're tracking to the month, how they're tracking to the quarter. So, there's no, there's no chocolates. If I have one good month and a poor month next month, I'm very big on, let's hit the target per quarter, because that's what's healthy for the business. So again, that is part of the process of what I coach. And I think showcase new products or services, brainstorm them with your team. How do you think we're going to go with this? What marketing strategies do we need to do? And I think the big one for me is ensure your team meetings or training sessions are engaging and motivating, where people walk away feeling good. And we did one to kick off our year Friday a week ago. We did a 4-hour session, worked on our business. We've got a task list of what we'd like to achieve in this year, in particular the next 6 months. And then we finished off with a luncheon afterwards, right? So we took the guys out to lunch to kick the year off. So, 20th of December was our Christmas party. Thanks for the year. 10th of January is like, right, let's get refocused for 2025 and get that engine room happening. So I'd like to get some feedback on how I'm going so far. Am I on the money with what you want to hear? Because I think that's really, really important. So feel free to put something in the chat box, or if you want to ask me a question, I think it would be great as I go into the next section, which is around understanding sales leadership. Don't be scared. Pretty easy going guy. I'm tough. So if you're not happy with what I'm talking about, then feel free to say, hey, Colin, you're going to cover this or you're going to cover that, because that's important that I meet and exceed your expectations. Okay, perfect. Thank you, Simon. Spot on for me, which I think is really, really good. Someone's already calling me I thought I had that turned off. Sorry, guys. Okay, so if we talk about sales leadership, right? So this is about you and how you empower your team. So that collaboration with your team is really, really important. And you've got to get to know your team. So, it's really important as part of culture that, that you get to know your team, you learn about their strengths, their weaknesses, what motivates them, what demotivates them, what they aim to achieve, strive for, because all that is part of your leadership. And then that next comment that I've got is that lead from the front, inspire them. So I believe that you can push somebody. So if I come in and anyone has done any training with me, I want to know if they're match fit, especially if they're going to do, and they're in sales. So you come to work, are you in the zone, right? And I always say, do what you hate first. Do what you hate first thing in the day and get it over and done with, like cold calling or prospecting. I've done a recent webinar with a lady called Sue Glacier, and she talked about eat the green frog, where you eat the green frog and do what you hate first and just get it over and done with. But I think, that is part of how you inspire them. And I think good leadership is around, how you can coach, manage and mentor your team members to get to that next level. So you got to be self-disciplined in sales. You got to have no fear factor, be determined, highly competitive, and just get in there and do it. And luckily, that's my personality. That's what I've loved all my life, and I love the thrill of the chase and meeting people and winning opportunities. But how do you then translate that down to your team members where they have that same passion and drive, which I think is really, really important. And again, it's about that engagement and motivation. So you got to look at some of the fun stuff that you do as well with your clients. So I always say to staff is, if you're demotivated, just ring your existing clients who you get along well with, because they will just pump your tires up very, very quickly. And all you got to do is ask them, how's your weekend? What have you been up to? And just get that energy going, and away you go. A good leadership in sales, and I learned this at a young age when I got into becoming a manager for the very first time. I was 33 years of age. And you just got to be a really good facilitator. So you've got to be a facilitator with meetings, product training, team building sessions. You just got to really set that pathway so strong of this is what we can do, and have that belief. So what's really interesting is over the journey where, when I've gone into a company and very similar businesses, one's got all the skill level in the world with no motivation, and another one's got very little skill level with high motivation, and they'll outsell this other business 3 times over because the motivation is high and there's belief, right? So sales is about belief. And I go back to, you got to believe in the products, services you offer. You got to see the value your customers are going to get from them, because that's what creates the energy. And, a lot of companies come to me and go, Cole, do you want to, put big commissions and everything like that? I do agree with having some sort of bonus system, and it really depends on your business and your model. And that's a conversation I'm happy to have with anyone that makes it happen. So I'm going to come back to that one, tips on how to, with a new team, right? So I'm going to come back to that one, Simon, because that's actually in my slides a bit further on. And again, that activity. So, how many calls did you make today? How many people did you see? How many proposals did you get out? Because if you've got somebody who's not seeing people, then you're not going to make many sales. And I think, with one sales particular person that I worked with last week, we mapped out his diary plan of 2 hours so coming into work, getting your mindset right. It was actually an hour and a half of shooting off emails, have a break, 2 hours of getting on the phones, following up, have your lunch, get out there and cold call in the afternoon. And then the last part of the day is come back and input the work that you've done into the CRM and create an action plan of how you're going to follow them up within the next 24, 48 hours from what you've done. So this is a person that's brand new and it's starting off, and that's probably a good help for you there, Simon, to get that person going. So you actually build that induction process to actually make it happen. And I think the big one is celebrating the wins and acknowledging high achievements. So there's nothing more, there's nothing more demotivating than you've had your biggest month ever as a company, and you've done nothing to acknowledge it or celebrate it or to do it. So, you know, I was coached when I got into management, sales management, as a younger person, that, you know, it's your job, Colin, to get that salesperson to make their first sale, get their first commission check, make sure you've got these guys that are, you know, working for you, and get them to have a taste of success early on. So we'll rate you as a manager by how you can get these guys starting off. And I think if I go back and really look at that in hindsight, that's why I have a business today, because the grounding that was instilled into me to make that happen is what I teach today. And I had a really great leader back at the time who supported me. So again, so when we look at leadership is about, you know, that vision that you can do all the things that we need to do to actually make it happen. And then you've got your management. You've got to put your management cap on. So if anyone's done any training with me, I talk about leadership and management, right? Because a leader and a manager to me is two different things. But what's really important is when you've got your manager hat on, you look at the stats, and that's where the reporting comes from. So again, a well-oiled machine business, like every Friday afternoon, all my reports get emailed to me from my team, and we're only a team of 12. So everyone's aware of it. So our meetings on a Monday are a lot quicker because we've got the reporting. We already know where things are at. So I think that's really, really important. Number of proposals, number of leads, all the things that the activity is what's important. If you've got somebody who says, oh, I've done 3 appointments last week and I followed up maybe 15 clients, then you really got to ask yourself the question, how are you going to hit the target? So again, that's where we put our manager's hat on and start looking at the stats. So I think, as it says there, that, you know, that questioning is really, really important, and you focus on the gaps. So the gaps are the shortfall, and you ask the question, what do you believe we can do as a team or as an individual to actually bridge those gaps? Now, most salespeople or consultants will say, spend more money on advertising, but it doesn't work like that, because you can't blow all your dough on advertising and not get the sales results in return. And I'm sure a lot of you can relate to me on that. So it's about trying to find that well balance, but we do need to have some sales activity. We need to acknowledge progress. We need to acknowledge things that we see where people are trying different things, and making it happen. And 2 years ago, look, we look after a lot of clients in regional areas, and we go down to Warrnambool a lot. So, you know, like, who can we go and drop in along the way or give a call or speak to? And then, you know, rather than go for one appointment and come back, let's go and do 3 or 4 appointments. And, you know, the goal that we achieved was seven appointments. So we're going down to see somebody because they have a need, but we drop in and see people on the way down and on the way back, and then that becomes very, very successful. So I call that like a traveling campaign. Let's go and do that. And we're very good at doing that in this business. So, you know, it's about acknowledging process, you know, implementing necessary changes you need to do, and just get the team organized. So, you know, show me a busy team, show me a busy salesperson, I'll show you a happy salesperson, is a saying that I like to say. So again, it is you, that leader, manager, getting them organized, and then that direct others for their continuous support and improvement. So if you've got somebody in your business that's really good at product knowledge, then buddy them up with somebody who's not good at product knowledge, right? And again, that's part of induction, that's part of the process. And again, sales management, you're always recruiting new talent, and you need to induct them successfully. And then there's this big thing around performance management, which I'll go into. What is performance management? Because that is part of the process of what you need to do in driving sales. So sales is the blood of every business. If you've got a sales team, then they need to understand that they can't be lazy, right? They've got to be active. So if anyone's done any training with me, some of my courses, they'll understand this quote: leaders versus managers. So managers do things right while leaders do the right thing. So that's that visionary, and then making sure that I've got the numbers right to back up the vision. And both roles play an integral part of any business, especially around sales management. So we've got to make sure that we've got that leadership and the numbers, the stats, because, you know, the numbers tell the story and the stats tell the story, whether you're going to have a good month or a shocker. Okay, if we talk about things like what does a good leader look like? Well, here it is. Clear, consistent communication. They're really big at setting goals and objectives. They've got that vision for high success. They listen to the team, right, and get them involved in ideas, brainstorming outcomes. I make a living facilitating that with companies. They have empathy. So, so you've got to have empathy if a person's not going so well, but you need to build the team back up again if you're having a poor month, or, we don't make excuses. We just have a bit of empathy, but we get back on board with it. And then, we're open to receiving feedback. It doesn't matter what happens when someone leaves the company. It's really, really hard if you've lost a really good performer. You still got to somehow front up and have that positive attitude for the rest of the team. So I think that is all part of the process of what a leader looks like. And then providing support to other team members. So a massive on, we all have our ups and downs, and you just got to turn the news on and see how bad the world is. So you come to work, I reckon if you watch the news, listen to the radio and all the crap that goes on, I think, you're half defeated before you even start, of just some of the things that we hear today in the media, and how we see our politicians perform as well, which I think is it's just not good. Because sales, business, all of that is about focus. So you just got to surround yourself with positive energy, positive mindset. So if you're not leading and driving sales performance outcomes, who is? So this is part of the process of what we actually do as a leader when it comes to our sales strategy. And if you're having a bad day, right, and it happens to me sometimes, you ask a team member to jump in and take control, right? And that succession planning, I think, is really, really important. Okay, so this is from Ari. It's the performance management, the life cycle of an employee, job analysis. We recruit, we onboard them, reward and recognition. We do our performance appraisals. We have disciplinary. We learn and develop, and we create succession planning. So again, if I'm developing somebody into sales, so when I go into companies, they say, "Oh, Cole, we can't find good salespeople," right? It's a common thing. So I say, "Okay, no problems at all. But do you have any sales coordinators? Have you put any? What's part of your succession plan? How do you get somebody into your business where they learn the IP of your business for a good 12, 18 months, and then get them out on the road or doing what you need to do? Because if I'm not getting it from one way, I've got to look at it another way." But performance management is sometimes seen as a dirty word. It's not. I like the word performance coaching, because if I'm in trouble, it's then performance cancelling, and that's another conversation which I won't get into. But again, you've got to be always measuring the outcomes. So when we're linking performance to reviews, we're giving them that valuable feedback of activities. We're setting those guidelines and expectations. And, it's got to be professional and well organised as a company. So I think, again, that feedback is really, really important. And staff want to be involved, they want to be part of the improvement process. So I spoke about before, we have a product, we're not moving this product, what do we need to do? And again, I think also too, you might have some products that are in your mix that the team is saying, look, this is old, it's antiquated, it's not what people are buying. Do we remove that and then refocus on new products or different products to actually bring into the mix? You want to identify where the employee's needs to develop and grow or improve, and again, align this with your business objectives. So I've got my business hat on, which links to the sales side of things. If I can say, when I very first started this business, the whole goal of the business was we're a sales training business with a HR back end, right? That was the process, right? So we go and do the training, and then we'd have a small team of HR professionals that would come in and help with things like action plan, position, role clarity, performance reviews, performance discussions. That was the whole concept of the business. When Kevin Rudd won the election, and Fair Work came in, that was just like, I don't know, a lucky start, if I can say that, because everyone was confused. And now, there's so much compliance and regulation and stuff like that that's in it. And this is part of our success. I can say we've moved with the times, we've moved with what the demand is out there in the marketplace, and that's a really good strategy. So what I'm trying to say is, when we go into a company, if we've got good business strategy that's linked to sales activity and our workforce, then you put all that together, and you should have a great team that's going to deliver on your goals and objectives. I do want to say, well, a minute, so just to let you know that we've just put a job ad out for a HR professional come and join our business. And it's the very first time ever that we've got, over 40 applicants that have applied for the job. So it is starting to swing, because there's lots of redundancies and things that are happening at the moment. It is starting to swing back to the employer with more opportunities out there. So how do you do it? Leadership, lead your team, have your strategy, refresh your strategic plan, get that buy-in from your key stakeholders in the business or the whole team. And then just got to work together to empower others. And you just got to have those great team meetings and celebrate the wins and the milestone moments as you go. And that recognition and praise is invaluable. Okay, so that was my my topic 2, which I gave you full blast. So so I hope you're happy with that. And let's talk about topic 3 now, which is around building a sales culture. So feel free again to put some questions out there or make any comments, because I really value that. So if you think about embracing 2025, I think, and we did this on the 10th. You know, we brought the team together, and we're already well-oiled machine, our business. But what does it look like for 2025? So you know, we've already done that, and that's just me kicking the year off. But you want to share your vision for the year ahead. You've really got to have that positive mindset. And I think you've got to stay focused on your strategy. So this is our plan. This is what we actually need to do, and get people involved with that plan. You need to embrace change. So again, when we create changes in a business, it's not sometimes the change, it's how we communicate that change is what can either motivate or demotivate a team. And a great example of that is systems, right? So I talked about a CRM system. We go into companies and there's 3 or 4 different systems. No, we use one system. We've all got to get on board to actually make that work, because the company's committed to do that. So I'm working with a client. They've got 2 systems. I did a session with these guys at the end of the last year, and one of the questions the team asked was, when are we going to turn the other system off? Because if we don't turn the other system off, because we're running to like two different programs, we're never going to embrace this new program. So it's just really interesting getting that feedback from the team, which opened the eyes of the business owner to go, well, you know what, maybe we need to do that now, because he's just trying to please everyone. And I said, no, you're actually making the situation worse. So I think it's important. You've got to get people on the same time. You create the vibe, you create the drive, and you bring your team with you on what we need to do. So this is all about that sales culture. So, you know, you build a sales culture from the energy you and the team create, right? So I think that's just, you know, and you don't have to be this, I'm pretty pumped up as I'm doing this webinar, because I don't want it to be boring, but I'm not like this in my team all the time, but I am like, go, 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 go. Let's make stuff happen. And that is the actual, the environment you create, I think is really, really important. So get your team aligned with your goals. And again, that is really important. You know, those KPIs, the targets you need to go after, the products, the services, everything we've spoken about. You know what? You've got to be upfront, share your goals and that company direction with your team. You know, you need to engage your staff wanting to achieve sales results for the company, and, you know, without sales. So I made a bit of a joke. I have a great client. He's a friend, but, you know, in a session, probably 5 or 6 years ago, longer than that, 8 years ago, he talked about the lemon tree. He said to his team, I don't have a lemon tree. I don't think you understand. You think I've got a lemon tree at the back that just keeps producing money. If we're not making sales and we're not committed to having conversations with our clients, then how do you expect me to pay you, right? So so I think it's important to and you've got to be careful what you say, because we've seen it where, you know, a company, you know, what's the word? They're saying to the team they're struggling, and they take delivery of a new boat, which doesn't really go down well when they show the photos of that to the team. So again, I think it's important that, you know, you've got to be open and honest with your team and make it happen. Train them. You know, the old Tom O'Toole, what happens if I train staff and they leave? What happens if you don't train and they stay, right? That's one of his sayings. So again, I think it's really important. He was the founder of Beechworth Bakery. You know, it's really important that you've got to keep training the guys, and that could be in-house, or you can bring in suppliers, some partners, and again, that is all part of the process. And, you know, and you just got to keep continually, regularly communicating the results of how you're actually going, and that reward for effort for what you've actually done. So if we go away and we do a conference or something like that, and we come back, then we share what that conference is. And again, you might link it to incentives. Now, you know, not everyone is motivated by money, but it does help. I will say that. But again, that's up to you and what you want to do as a team. And I've seen bonus structures make a business and destroy a business. So I think it's really important that you've got to get that mix right with the team, because what you don't want is in-house fighting, because your competition is down the road, not inside your own four walls of your business. So I hope that makes clear sense to you. And I think, you know, if you look at it, what does success look like for your team? and what does it look like for your business? So again, when we get that alignment happening, I think what we end up with is really high success. I know that because that's what we practice and preach, and that's what I do a lot of out there with clientele. And I think when we look at the outcome of training developing staff, so if we're constantly doing training sessions, and I've talked about in-house training sessions, and I've written an article about the best form of training. So I believe the best form of training is case studies. This is, pick 3 case studies. Here's one we've done really well, a job we've done well. Here's one that didn't go so well. Let's brainstorm why. And here's one where went above and beyond and got a 5-star Google review from our clientele. And referrals. So again, that is part of our good training. If you want motivation or change or strategy, then you might engage somebody to come in and help you do that. But I make a quote always, and the quote is that 90% of the ideas on how to grow a business lies within inside the business. I just make a living for going out there and extracting that, putting it, packaging it together, and representing it back to the team, which they love, if I can say that. So again, the outcomes, your staff feel valued, empowered, they've got purpose, more productive, more job satisfaction, more rewards. And the benefits of the business is that skillful and talented employees. So that intellectual property, we've got to constantly train them. And the increase in productivity, reduced wasting time, less mistakes, rework, and better customer outputs. And the result is you get more sales and profitability back into your business. So we need to sit back and go, well, okay, 2025, what does our year look like? How are we going to really grow and get our business to that next level? And for motivation, I tend to be really booked out at the start of the year and around the financial year, because that's when companies go and run a sales conference to actually, get boosted. And, you can do things like sales profiling and stuff like that. I love to mystery shop a company before I go in there and do the training. So that really sets the scene when we go in there and do it. But I think if you think about running some sort of conference, whether it be a team conference, and a sales conference, what does it do? It builds team cohesion, and cohesion is about, we're all together be on the same page. It builds commitment, accountability, trust among the team members. And they become better skilled that you can reset expectations. So a conference is a really good way of resetting expectations of where you want to go forward. Always do some sort of team building activity that complements the learning, I think is really, really important. And bring in some experts for help. And it doesn't have to be one person, it could be multiple people. You can design it any way that you want it. But I think, when we run, we shut our business down 4 times a year for half a day. In the middle of the year, we do a 2-day session. I like to bring in outside experts to come and help and support us, because I do it and I believe in it, and it works for us. Because if Sam comes in and says, hey, this is what you need to do, and these are the things you need to look at, our team just believe in it, and it makes a world of difference. So I think it's important, and it makes, it's got to be motivating. There's nothing worse than running a conference that is a slagging session and it's not motivating. We don't want that. We want it to be positive, and we want to make sure it's good, and we solve problems and we have fun at the same time. That's the whole idea of running some form of sales conference. Okay, so I hope that I have exceeded your expectations on this webinar, and I think and I've got a message here from Simon, right? So I'm new to my company and I can see people just putting out spot fires. Change is very difficult to implement, and setting goals need some tips. Yeah, you know what? So this is my tip, Simon. Bring the team in and say, listen, we're reactive. Let's have a conversation how we become proactive. I need your ideas, especially if you're new to a company, right? So that would be my tip. And companies that struggle with that or want to know more information, they can do things like engagement surveys, which we offer, or even that one-on-one, consultation. You've got to do something to try and create that change. It's got to be something reason behind the change, and that's that realigning, setting your goals and objectives with your team. So we've got a heap of downloads. You just go to our website and you can download it, and that's, as I said before, part of our process of generating leads. So do we have any questions? Any other questions? So I hope I answered that question. So yeah, you just got to bring the team in, and maybe Simon, I don't know how big your company is. Happy to have a conversation with you after this webinar. But if you've got departments, maybe you do it one department at a time, or you bring the whole team together. If it's under 10 people or something like that, I think it's important that you actually do that. So do we have any other questions out there, guys? Feel free to throw some questions or put some comments in the chat box. But I hope that I have. I've entertained you today and helped you with a good start to 2025. We have a masterclass, our next sales masterclass that I run from 9 to 4:30. It's in our office in Essendon. Unless we get a large booking, then we go offsite. But the next one we've got is the 11th of February. If anyone's interested, you can have a look at our website. It's on our website. But when we go into a company and we try and create that change and get things happening, we have a process, a proven model process of how it works. And to create change within the company or to grow a company, number one for me is around strategy. What's our strategy? What's our growth plan of what we need to do? And you need to brainstorm that. And that's around marketing, people, products, services, client strategy, systems, processes, looking at our risk. You want to build that strategy. And then again, the next thing is around that leadership. Let's get our leadership team right so we're all communicating the same way. So there's nothing worse than you're trying to create change in a business and you've got 4 different leaders, 4 different personalities, and you're always going to have different personalities, but not everyone is on the same page. That is dangerous, especially if a leader is bagging the process. We can't have that at all. And then it's around that culture. So how do we get that culture, that mindset right, where people want to come to work and want to contribute to the business and be part of the team? And then, if we put on our compliance hat, well, let's get our things like our HR in order. And when I talk about HR, contracts, position descriptions, performance appraisals, policies, procedures, processes, all of that, because what that does is that's become common ground in what we need to do. All we hear out there in the media now is doom and gloom, all right? And we're hearing lots more cases around mental health and stuff like that. And there are many people in this world that suffer with mental health. But all I want to say is if I've got a team that come to work, I want them to come to work where it's a place they feel they want to be at work and contribute, all right, and be part of something. Because for me, is what's going to improve somebody's mental health for sure. We are a great team at Key Business Advisors. We love what we do. We showcase everything. If you need any help or support, feel free to reach out to us. Our next webinar is on the 17th of March. And it's about implementing business strategies to empower your team. And you can see the topics there and feel free to register for that. If you really enjoyed this session, we live for Google reviews. So we set a goal as a company, and this is a really good example. How do we get to 50 Google reviews? How do we get to 100? How do we get to 150? Now we're chasing 200. So if you have really enjoyed this session and you'll get a copy of the recording, then please give us a Google review, because that's what helps us grow our business, like I do for other businesses where I feel that they've done a fantastic job in servicing us. So thank you very, very much, everyone. It's really important that I finish on time. Are there any last questions before we finish off? Simon, you've been amazing today. No questions? Okay, so there's a bit there for you to absorb. Have a great start to the year. Today is Monday. We have a long weekend coming up, and enjoy the week ahead. And what I'll say is do something. Don't do anything because it achieves nothing. Do something if you want to grow the sales in your business, and happy to have a conversation with anyone. So hang on, I've got 5 more. Wait on one sec. Q&A. That's something for me. I do. Thank you. Yep. No, thank you very much, Simon. Beautiful. All right. Thanks, everyone. That concludes our webinar. Thank you.